Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and today we're going to be going through bad parenting TikToks. That's right, mostly teenagers or young adults, going off about their bad parenting, and the bad parenting they dealt with growing up, and also just sequences of events showing how bad parenting can really be. Now, I don't know about you guys, but, I've faced my goodness and badness with parenting, so I'm sure I'll find some of this content relatable, and I'm sure a lot of you will as well. So, without further ado, let's just get into this.
Tell me why my mom, as a punishment, changes the child settings on my Netflix account so that I'm not allowed to watch shit over 18 years old anymore. Joke's on you, bitch. Sophia the first, my shit.
I'm not gonna lie, dudes. I really don't think that restricting screen time or, restricting certain, account settings or, phone settings is gonna really help you control your children or young adults or teenagers or whatever. I think most of the time, these people can just figure out another way to watch whatever. Outside of Netflix, there's 1,000 other websites you can go on to watch other content, so I don't know. I just think it's stupid. Growing up, my mother never thought to restrict screen time. I was kind of one of those kids that was always behind a computer screen, so she just let me do my thing. But saying that, I feel like she kind of was aware that restricting such would only get me to find other ways of, finding content online or through other means. We were a very technological family. We were always very much into, DS's, DSI's, Wii, very Nintendo-esque if you can't tell, emulators. We were always into, Netflix. We were always into something. And, my mom loved watching TV and loved technology just as much as any of us. So I feel like trying to restrict it would be kind of stupid. So I was really lucky. I never even had to worry about being restricted of, my media and content and stuff like that. Even when I skipped school really hard, my mom still let me watch, everything that I wanted to watch. So I don't know, man. I really didn't have this kind of problem, but I feel like you can't even, stop people from watching stuff online anymore. Even if you restrict websites and age restrict stuff and whatever, they'll find another way.
So my sister got screen recorded. What is it? Screen time?
No. Yeah, screen time.
Screen time on her phone, and look at this.
I have no type of FaceTime.
No
okay?
FaceTime.
No
Fast.
social media apps. No music.
Wait, go back. She can't even have TikTok.
I mean, the TikTok makes sense. She can't even have TikTok is kind of funny. I feel like, again, applying screen time to get your kid off of their phone isn't going to be that effective. The way I think is if you have a phone, then you probably have a computer of some kind, because everything's digital nowadays, even with school. So you can just use your computer, or you can go out. Even if you wanted to and you were that desperate, you can go to the library. Oh, and make sure to log out of your accounts if you're using, public computers or something like that. But at the end of the day, there's just so many ways you can use technology. You don't even need to do it at home. You can just be like, oh, I'm going to the library to study, and you just screw around on the computer the whole time. I don't know. I used to, go onto the computer at the library all the time when I was a kid. I used to have, no money. I don't even think I had a computer of my own. I didn't have, a lot of technology. I was in California. I had a little bit, but I would go to the public library, use the computer while my mom would look at, Stephen King books and stuff. It was actually pretty fun. I just feel like restricting your kids' screen time is not going to be the best way to get them to get off of their phone. I could be wrong, but I feel like the more you tell somebody they can't do something, the worse it's going to be.
My Bible verses app.
Okay.
My money app.
It's really funny, actually, how they even restricted the Bible verses app. I'd feel like that's something that you should be wanting to read and also shouldn't be restricted from reading. And also, certain other apps, some of these apps aren't even social media. It's just silly. But, there's this thing you can do. It's called Get a Book. Even for the Bible, you can get a book. Books are great. They don't require the restriction of screen time. So I always recommend, any kind of book. And if you don't have any books in your house, just go to the library again. There are so many ways you can get around this. I don't really understand what people do these days. This generation's kind of weird. I remember in high school, they even switched out all the books in the library for, flat screen TVs, computers. They started phasing out all of the actual, books. I remember when I was in high school, I used to read, those thick medical textbooks with all the diseases and stuff in them. They stopped updating everything. If something got destroyed, they wouldn't replace it. They would just get a digital version online because it's, cheaper and easier to source and stuff. So I don't know how much access people have to like books and stuff, but there's always going to be a public library near you, so I think people should be reading more in general. I really don't read enough. If it's not online, I'm not going to be reading it, and that is a bad thing. Other thing you can do is also, if you're willing to spend money, go to a bookstore, go to Amazon and get some books. But I think having the physical copy of the book is very good. It's also way more fun to read than being on your phone and like reading a book on there, I think. Although I've also had my stint with reading a ton of books online, like Wattpad, fanfiction.net. Like when I was a tween, that was all I do, is like from ages like 11 to 14, all I did was read fan fictions. And this is why I'm so weird now.
Like my food, she took my food away.
She wants you
She
to
was like
starve.
360 and she took my period tracker away. She took.
So this is kind of weird. I feel like, again, people are so reliant on their phones. It's like, okay, I get it's a joke, but the idea of it being like, oh, how am I going to eat without my, fast food apps? Oh, how am I going to, like, do anything without my social media apps? It's good to sometimes take a break, at least from entertaining yourself with social media, to help kind of break into that world of just normality, going outside, touching grass, living in like the real world instead of online. It's really good for you, and this is coming from somebody who is chronically online. After a certain point, you start to lose your humanity.
My journal away. She took my photos away, my camera.
Again, it's so weird because half of these apps you can just have like on real paper in real life. I know it's not the most convenient thing. Everything being on your phone is incredibly convenient, especially when traveling, but you should have your own books at home. You should have your own journal at home that you can write in. It also is good to just have penmanship. I remember also growing up, there's this big thing that started happening, especially when we got into like middle school to high school. People went from being decently good at writing, writing on paper, to being terrible at it. We became a digital class in like 8th grade, and after that, nobody wrote on paper. Everybody, and I mean everybody, just did everything digitally, typing on a keyboard. Cool, you've got good key speed, but nobody can read when you write something down on a piece of paper or on a chalkboard or anything like that. So I find that it's incredibly unforgiving when you don't use these basic tasks that we have as people. It's going to impair you. After a certain point, the convenience of technology actually does become an inconvenience.
YouTube, not even Netflix. my school stuff. I don't understand.
Obviously, I don't think this parent realized everything they were restricting if they also restricted your school stuff, but who knows? It's just really weird. It's just very weird. This is why I also don't like these screen time apps and stuff like that. It's just gonna waste your time and make things incredibly inconvenient. I don't think they're very effective also at keeping people away from like going onto social media and stuff. I could be wrong, but I think it's just really dumb. Me asking my strict mom if I can go out 2 days in a row. Dude, I wish I had friends enough to go out 2 days in a row when I was younger. I used to go out though, actually, in middle school all the time when I had friends to hang out with. I know I don't have any friends anymore. That's so awkward. But it's kind of funny. Like, I really didn't go to school until I was in high school. Like, I just skipped all the time. But I would still find a way to hang out with people, at the park, hang out with my friends at their homes, have people over, whatever, not commonly, but have people over on occasion, things like that. And when I would do those kinds of things, my mom didn't care as long as I told her where I was. So when I hear people actually having these issues where they're worried about their strict parents, like not letting them go out and hang out with people 2 days in a row, that's pretty wild. I know that some of this is a little bit exaggerative, it's a little bit, comical, just to kind of play on like a joke or whatever. But usually, again, I feel like trying to keep your kids from doing stuff is just going to make them rebel worse in the future. So I don't know, man. My mom was raised in a little bit of a stricter household, so I think she kind of knew this, which I can appreciate of her, because instead of her telling us we couldn't do something, she instead told us, hey, tell me where you're at, don't do anything crazy, don't go out and do a bunch of drugs, if you're gonna be drinking, drink at home. Like, typical, like, American Italian mom vibes. Like, she'd rather have you home being fed and taken care of than running around out and about, not telling her where you're at, that kind of thing. So, I don't know, man. I just think it's really interesting hearing people's extreme parenting situations, because I never dealt with any of this. I dealt with sometimes a lack of parenting, a lack of guidance in life due to having that single mother vibe, but at the end of the day, I never dealt with an extreme parenting situation where I was restricted of technology, restricted of space. Financially, yeah, things were suboptimal, but I was never restricted of, like, being able to access things I had access to. And I also never dealt with being told, like, oh, you can't go out with your friends. Like, I don't know, man. It's kind of interesting, though.
I'm afraid to ask you this.
If you have strict parents or an overprotective boyfriend or girlfriend, listen to this. Go into Snapchat and take a selfie of yourself when you are at home and then make it a sticker. The uglier the better. It has to be believable. And then when you're not at home, just go back and use that sticker and you're magically chilling in bed. You're welcome.
Very interesting. I've never actually played my hand at Snapchat other than for like location tracking. But if you have a really overprotective boyfriend or girlfriend, are you really going to try and lie to them? I feel like that would just make them more like distrusting of you. I feel like being flat out with people and honest is better. But with your parents, again, it's like, will they believe you? I guess they might. I don't know. I feel like lying is bad. Lying in general is bad. You shouldn't lie about where you're at. Especially if you're in a potentially precarious situation. Not just because I think it's actually morally bad, but because I think that putting yourself in a position where you might be out and about and lying about where you're at could put you at risk. If, say, hypothetically something were to happen to you while you're out and about, nobody's checking in on you, they think you're at home, things like that. So I would be a little bit cautious when doing this kind of thing. Personally, I don't recommend it. I think it's better to just be honest, even if your parents will be mad at you, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend will be mad at you, or somebody's gonna tell you, hey, you can't do this, or say them telling you that you can't go out. I think it's better for all of that to happen than for people to actually not know where you're at and for you to be lying about where you're at.
Just meet me at the back of the Jewel parking lot. No, I've done it there so many times. Don't worry. Babe, it's been like so hard. I like miss you so. It's Jessica. Put your wig on. Yeah, I have to go to the library. Yeah, I have to read a book for a class. Drop me off at that corner right there. Do not wait a fucking second, Raj. Drop me off, then bolt. Got it?
I wish that this was me with strict parents. One, never had strict parents to begin with, so this wouldn't have happened. But two, like, I didn't have a boyfriend until I was, like, in my 20s. So at that point, it was just like, oh yeah, finally, geez, we thought something was horribly wrong with you.
Hand me the perfume. Yes, my parents literally have dog's noses. So hard. Changing outfit and driving at the same time. God damn it. My parents are calling. Everyone shut up. Can you not sound like a drug dealer for 2 seconds? Please shut up.
What strict parents taught their kids. How to hide things without ever getting caught. Having a very sharp hearing. How to lie like a pro. Knowing when the doors open. Other kids are always better than you. Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, like, you know, you're gonna hit that perfectionistic, you're never good enough, inferiority complex, try hard kind of thing. And also, I feel like the number one thing that having a super strict parent is going to perpetuate is that you're gonna really have to lie. Like this person did mention, like, you're a really good liar. You know, you become a really good liar with a strict parent. And this is the thing, you do not want to be a liar. You don't want to grow up living a life where you have to constantly lie. It makes you paranoid, it makes you worried that people are gonna know when you're lying or if you're telling the truth or whatever. And then on top of that, it's gonna make it much more difficult for you to keep track of what the truth is and what the lie is. When are you lying? When are you telling the truth? That kind of thing. And on top of that, it's just not good because it also perpetuates this level of satisfaction when you get away with a lie. Personally, I think that when you hit those developmental years and then you start doing this thing with like consistently lying to your parents as an act of almost defiance and getting away with stuff, that's gonna build into your behavior when you hit that kind of early adulthood stage. And then you're gonna hit this certain point where instead of lying to your parents, you're now lying to your boss, your friends, your coworkers, your family, people who surround you, and you're gonna just become a compulsive liar. It's a little bit extreme when I say that, but if you build this habit and pattern of lying, you're gonna be more likely to wanna lie more consistently to get away with things, or maybe not to disappoint people or make them angry or upset with you. Instead of like resolving a conflict, you're going to be trying to kind of be avoidant of conflicts, and then you're going to be lying to be avoidant of those conflicts. I think that can actually happen to some people, and I don't recommend it, and I don't think lying is the way out of these kinds of situations. I don't know what the solution is, obviously, when you deal with really strict parents. Obviously, when you have really strict parents, it's going to be super difficult to put up with them and all of the rules that they set and the boundaries they push, or the lack of privacy you may have for 18 plus years. So that's also going to be a difficulty. Like, are you going to be able to cope while living under these rules and telling the truth, or are you going to have to lie at some point? Because everybody lies here and there when it comes to their parents. There are certain things you're just not going to want to tell your parents. Personally, like, you have the option of having either super strict parents or super lax parents, and both of those will create fuck-ups for children. I think in the most extreme cases with a really strict parent, you can create some child who has an inferiority complex, grows up having to lie constantly, snoop around, sneak around, get away with things when they're not that big of a deal, get paranoid about little things as if they are a big deal, you know, become hyper perfectionistic, etc., whatever. And then on the other side, when you do this kind of like lax parenting and you don't really raise your kids with any level of rule, they're not going to have any set boundaries for anything. They're going to think they can get away with whatever they want. Sometimes that'll build a really extreme individual who's very arrogant, very entitled, and it'll be just as bad. Sometimes not having any rules will create that level of balance. Like, you know, if you grow up surrounded by technology, you're not going to be as likely to go crazy with technology when you're older because you kind of already have always had it. But again, there are certain people who will just get like addicted to technology and they'll constantly want to play video games or something like that into their 20s. So there's this balance and it's individually based, but I think it's very interesting when I see all this content online talking about, you know, really lax parenting and then also really strict parenting and the extremes. And there's always some kind of extreme result when it comes to these parenting tactics, when in reality, you do have to find that balance as a parent. And I know we're only taking snapshots from these people's lives. We don't know everything about these people's lives. Sometimes it's going to be a joke on TikTok. Sometimes it's going to be like, oh yeah, well, my parent gave me no screen time, but they usually do, and it's just a certain time because my grades are really down or something like that. Or whatever. Whatever the case is, I just think it's a very interesting prospect because at some point when I have my own kids, I'm going to be thinking, okay, what do I do to make my kid not a fuck up? That's literally all I'm thinking, you know? But yeah, anyways, that's the video. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you guys think that these parenting tactics are extreme or more so on the normal side? And how did you guys grow up on the basis of parenting tactics? Did you guys deal with really strict parenting? Tell me in the comments below if you are so inclined, and I will see you next time, my people. It has been lovely. Slater.